Hi, I'm Short. In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the casing of this Volkswagen ID3 or ID4 key. It can be quite a challenging replacement service. Sometimes it's also glued together pretty firmly. If you get stuck, don't hesitate to send us an email with your question. All right, let's get started with the old key. First, we're going to take out the emergency key. So I press the button and then I can pull the emergency key out of the casing. Next, I can already loosen the back cover. I simply do that by putting my fingernail in between and you can just pull it off like that. And the battery that's in here, I also want to take that out before we open it any further. So I place a small screwdriver underneath here and just take it out. Now, the next steps are a bit trickier. The key is held together by a locking pin, which we can see here. You can choose to tap this locking pin out with a small nail. It will then come out from under the rubber here. But today, I'm also going to show another method, which often works a bit easier to do this. In a moment, we'll first remove the chrome edges around it, and during that process, it will push the locking pin up a bit. As I said, it can be a bit tricky, so there might be some sped up footage here. We'll grab a flathead screwdriver, or if you have one, a prying tool, and place it between the casing and the chrome edge. We're going to pry a little until it comes loose, and then we'll quickly press it back into place. There we go, and that's how it comes off. By the way, you can also go ahead and remove the rubber mat that's on the bottom. It's basically no longer needed, but it can sometimes get in the way. Now, we're also loosening the other side, and what we're going to do now is press the casing under the chrome edges. So I'm pulling a bit on those chrome edges. And I'm also placing a small screwdriver underneath to be able to apply a little more pressure here. By the way, during the process, the old casing will always get damaged because the retaining pin gets lost in here, and often it also causes a bit of damage to the surrounding chrome edge or the plastic. Now, we keep trying to create a bit more space here, and as you can see, it's getting easier and easier for me to move the chrome. Whereas before it was stuck in one spot, I now notice that I can just pull it off in one go. So the retaining pin is still in there, but I did manage to remove the edge. Next we have two halves of the casing that need to be separated, and quite often there's a layer of glue in between, so we're going to proceed carefully here. I place the screwdriver between the two halves of the casing, and I'm going to carefully try to work my way around the entire edge. The key I have here turns out to be pretty well glued together, so I immediately grab the prying tool. You can also use a small knife for this, which makes it just a bit easier to work around all the edges. If you really can't figure it out, you can always email us, and we can take a look with you or help you think it through. Okay, if there are any parts here that are loose, you can just put them together with the other parts right away. Because basically you don't really need them. They actually come included with the new key as well. I'm just trying to make a bit of space here now. But be careful if you're doing this with a knife. Try not to cut yourself in the process. And after quite a bit of hassle, I finally managed to get under the edge. So what I'm trying now is, with the pruning tool, to go a little further each time over this edge, step by step. Never try to go so deep that you could damage the circuit board. But go deep enough so that every time you make that twist, the casing can open just a little bit further. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes it goes a lot easier than other times. It really just depends on how tightly it's glued together. But fortunately, I've finally managed to get through it here. And if you really can't figure it out, we also offer a transfer service. Send in your key needle or bring it by, and then we can then perform these actions for you. Well, we finally reached the circuit board now. I'll just open it up completely. Now, the circuit board isn't attached anyway, except that it's lying here around two little pins. So we can simply remove it here, take it out. Okay, and now we'll start with the new casing. To open this, we'll first loosen the back. And I want the emergency key to come out of the key. There is now a difference compared to the previous key, and that is that here there is a little screw instead of a locking pin. That also makes it a bit easier to replace. So we'll just unscrew this little screw, set it aside, and at that point we're able to quite easily loosen the side. By the way, don't be alarmed if the rubber part from the front comes loose here. This actually sits on top of the plastic, but when we close the casing in a moment, it'll just stay in place, and then it won't be able to move anymore. The next part that needs to come off is the other half of the chrome edge. And at this point, we're able to open both halves. You can see two clips here. Then I'll put this cap on for a moment, set it aside. You can see two clips here. And if we loosen them just a little, then we're able to open the casing. As you can see, this goes a lot faster than when a key is completely glued together. And that's only fair after all that work. And this is what you find on the inside. Just like how it was originally placed, we put it back in its spot. It can only fit in one way, and that's with the circuit board around the black tabs of the casing. At that point, it can't move even a millimeter anymore. It's really firmly in place. Next, we place the whole assembly onto the bottom half and make sure to check that everything lines up correctly. We carefully snap it shut and also make sure that all the clips around the edge fit together properly. Now that it's closed, we also take the rubber cap, you place that right on top here, and now we're going to start reassembling the chrome sides. Be sure to pay close attention here. Of course, we don't want any part of the rubber to be loose, because that would create space for it to come off completely later on. So when attaching it, make sure that the chrome side really sits over the rubber. So we start with the first side and make sure that I have just a bit of rubber underneath it so that it fits nicely into place now. It clicks into place, I check it, and I can see that nothing is sticking out at all. And then comes the other half. First, secure it at the top. And while I try to attach the rest, I press the rubber down a bit so that it sits properly all the way around. When I feel that everything's in place, I try to press it a bit further so that the two halves make contact with each other again. And make sure that the notch we see here lines up exactly on top of each other so that we can reinstall the screw. I'm now trying to position this perfectly and press the whole thing down. Now that it's aligned, I grab the screw again and secure everything. With the screw in place, tighten it. Check once more to make sure everything is properly in place on all sides. I see that a small piece of the rubber material has slipped under the edge, and for me that's a clear sign that it definitely needs to be loosened and carefully fixed. Look, because of course we want this to sit just under the rubber. Well, that being said, we press the halves together again and fasten the screw again. And now that it's properly in place, put the battery back, slide it halfway under the plastic, and then press it down. Next, put the back cover back on and make sure it clicks shut securely. And finally, of course, make sure the emergency key is put back in its place as well. And that's how you can restore this smart key for Volkswagen ID3 and ID4 keys. Hopefully everything went well with transferring your key housing. If you didn't quite manage, you'll find our contact information in the description below this video, or you can leave a comment under this video and I'll be happy to help you further. Success!